He only wanted one Apache girl, but didn't realize he had married three. The young man, named Ethan, had always been curious about the world beyond his small hometown. His days were usually quiet, filled with the simple routines of work, errands, and occasional weekends spent hiking in nearby hills. But his mind often wandered to stories he had heard about other people, other ways of life. From books, travel shows, and conversations with travelers passing through, he learned about the Apache people, their rich culture, their traditions, and their deep connection with the land. There was something about their history and way of life that drew him in, a kind of mystery that made him want to see it for himself. Ethan had never been the type to rush into life's big decisions. He was thoughtful, careful, and sometimes overthought things to the point where he would put off opportunities. Yet, when he decided that he wanted to travel and learn firsthand about the Apache community, he knew this was something he could not ignore. He saved money for months, researched everything he could about the area he planned to visit, and read stories of people who had lived or traveled there. He wanted to be respectful and prepared, even though he knew he could never fully understand their lives from a distance. The day he arrived in the reservation, Ethan felt a mixture of excitement and nervousness. The landscape was different from anything he had known. Rolling hills stretched as far as the eye could see, dotted with clusters of homes and open fields where animals roamed freely. The air was dry but clean, carrying a scent of sage and earth. People walked along dusty roads, greeting each other warmly. He immediately sensed a rhythm of life that was slower and yet fuller than the rushed pace he was used to back home. Ethan did not have a plan to meet anyone in particular, but life had a way of surprising him. On his second day, while visiting a local market, he noticed a young woman arranging baskets of fresh vegetables and handmade crafts. She moved with care and confidence, her eyes bright and her smile warm. Something about her presence drew him closer, not in a pushy way, but with genuine curiosity and admiration. Her name was Kaya, and she had lived in the community all her life. She knew everyone in the market and greeted them with affection and respect, but when she looked at Ethan, there was a polite curiosity in her eyes, as though she were trying to understand this visitor who had come from far away. Ethan found reasons to visit the market again, hoping to see Kaya. They began to talk, first about small things, weather, food, crafts, and then about deeper topics like family, culture, and dreams for the future. Kaya shared stories of her childhood, of growing up learning traditional dances and songs, of helping her family with daily chores, and of the strong connection her people had with the land and their ancestors. Ethan listened with rapt attention, fascinated by every detail. He realized that this was not just casual conversation. He was learning about a way of life that was completely new to him, and he was eager to understand it better. As days turned into weeks, Ethan and Kaya spent more time together. He accompanied her to community events, where he observed ceremonies, dances, and storytelling sessions that left him in awe. He tried to participate, sometimes awkwardly, but always with sincere respect. Kaya taught him the importance of listening, of paying attention to the subtle signs of respect in gestures and words, and of being patient when learning something unfamiliar. Ethan admired her patience as much as her knowledge. He realized that he was developing feelings that went beyond friendship. He admired Kaya not just for her beauty or her kindness, but for her strength, her wisdom, and her connection to her people. Ethan's fascination with Kaya grew into something deeper. He thought about her constantly, imagining a life together, yet he never wanted to rush or impose his expectations. One evening, as they walked along a quiet trail near the hills, Kaya shared stories of love and marriage in her community. She explained how families were often deeply involved in choosing partners, how respect and understanding were more important than speed, and how marriage was not just about two people, but about connecting families and communities. Ethan listened carefully, trying to understand, though he did not yet fully grasp all the details. He knew he wanted to be part of Kaya's life, but he also knew he had to approach it with sensitivity and patience. Time passed, and their bond grew stronger. Ethan realized that he could not imagine leaving the reservation without Kaya. He admired her values, her way of life, and the gentle strength she displayed every day. He wanted to be more than a visitor in her world. He wanted to share his life with her. One sunny afternoon, he took a deep breath and expressed his feelings, telling Kaya that he wished to marry her. She listened carefully, her expression thoughtful, and then nodded, acknowledging his sincerity. They both knew this was a significant step, and while there were still cultural customs and family discussions to be respected, a new chapter in their lives had begun. The preparation for the marriage was an experience in itself. Ethan observed how the community worked together, how family members supported each other, and how traditions were honored in every step. He helped where he could, carrying baskets, preparing meals, and learning the proper ways to participate in ceremonies. Each day, he felt more connected not only to Kaya but to the larger community. It was a beautiful, humbling experience for him, teaching him lessons he could never have learned in his hometown. He saw the importance of community, the beauty of shared responsibility, and the quiet power of traditions that had been passed down through generations. Even though Ethan felt he was ready to start a new life with Kaya, he could not fully shake a lingering sense of uncertainty. There were customs he did not yet understand, rules he had not yet learned, and expectations he might unknowingly break. But Kaya reassured him with her calm presence, explaining patiently, guiding him through each step, and sharing insights about how to navigate life in her community. Ethan realized that love was not just about passion or desire. It was also about listening, learning, and respecting. He was learning that slowly, but every day brought new understanding. As the wedding day approached, Ethan felt a mixture of excitement and nervousness. He had never imagined himself in this role, in this place, surrounded by traditions so different from what he knew. Yet he also felt a sense of belonging that surprised him. The ceremony was simple but beautiful, filled with music, laughter, and heartfelt blessings from family and friends. Ethan felt a deep connection not only to Kaya, but to the world she had invited him into. He felt proud and humbled, honored to be part of something so meaningful. The day ended with a quiet walk under the stars, hand in hand with Kaya, each of them aware that their journey together was only beginning. In the weeks following the wedding, Ethan continued to learn. Every day brought new lessons about love, community, and life. He helped with chores, attended gatherings, and participated in traditions with growing confidence. Yet despite his joy and contentment, he remained unaware of certain cultural nuances that would soon surprise him. He believed his life was settling into a peaceful, loving routine with Kaya, and he had no reason to suspect that the path ahead might be more complicated than he imagined. For now, he was happy, captivated by Kaya, and eager to embrace the life he had chosen in her world. Ethan's story in this part of his journey shows the beauty of curiosity, respect, and open-hearted love. It demonstrates how stepping into a new culture can be both exciting and challenging, and how meaningful connections often require patience and learning. He only wanted one love, one partner, but as he would soon discover, life has its own plans, and sometimes understanding comes slowly, step by step. For now, he was content, deeply in love, and ready to face whatever life had in store, trusting that his respect for Kaya and her world would guide him through. After the wedding, Ethan settled into life with Kaya, believing that this was the beginning of a peaceful, happy chapter. The early days were filled with laughter, shared chores, and quiet evenings talking under the stars. Ethan loved the simplicity and the rhythm of life in the community. He marveled at how everyone worked together, how neighbors supported each other, and how traditions were carefully observed. For him, it was a completely new way of living, far removed from the hurried life back in his hometown. At first, everything seemed perfect. Ethan and Kaya visited families, attended gatherings, and spent hours learning from elders about customs, ceremonies, and rituals. Ethan tried his best to absorb it all. He noticed how family ties were valued deeply, how advice from elders guided daily life, and how small gestures carried immense meaning. Every day, he felt more connected not just to Kaya, but to her entire world. One afternoon, while helping Kaya prepare for a community festival, Ethan overheard a conversation that made him pause. Some of the women in the family were speaking about him in a way he didn't fully understand. They were smiling, speaking softly, and seemed pleased, yet their words confused him. Kaya noticed his puzzled expression and gently explained that certain traditions allowed men to form bonds with more than one woman under specific circumstances. Ethan blinked in surprise. He had never heard of such a custom. To him, marriage was meant for two people, but here it seemed there were layers he had not yet grasped. Kaya tried to explain patiently. "It is not about replacing anyone," she said. "It is about connection, respect, and family ties. Sometimes a man is blessed with multiple bonds and each one is unique. Each woman has her own role and it is important to honor all of them." Ethan nodded, though his mind struggled to fully understand. He trusted Kaya, but inside he felt a mixture of curiosity, confusion, and a tiny spark of worry. He had only ever wanted her. How could there be others? In the following days, Ethan noticed more subtle signs. When he visited certain parts of the community for work or errands, he would meet women who greeted him warmly, as though he were already known to them in a special way. He tried to brush it off at first, assuming he was misunderstanding things. Yet slowly, he began to realize that these greetings were not casual, they carried meaning. He was beginning to understand that the customs surrounding marriage and partnership in this community were far more complex than he had imagined. One evening, Ethan and Kaya were invited to a family dinner. The house was lively, filled with laughter, cooking smells, and children playing in the yard. As they sat down, Ethan noticed a woman he had not met before. She was kind, polite, and seemed to know Kaya well. To Ethan's surprise, she greeted him as a husband, in a way that was both respectful and familiar. Ethan's heart raced, a mix of confusion and disbelief. Kaya noticed his expression and gently held his hand, whispering, "It is part of our tradition. You are connected to her, in a way that you will come to understand." He had married Kaya with a simple vision of life together, and now he realized that he was stepping into a world with rules and customs he had not fully grasped. He felt overwhelmed, unsure how to approach this, and afraid of making mistakes. The next day, he sought advice from an elder in the community, a wise woman who had guided Kaya and many others through life. She spoke kindly but firmly. "Ethan," she said, "your heart is good and your intentions are honest, but you must understand that love here is not always as simple as you expect. The connections you form are honored, and each relationship has meaning. You must respect them, even if you do not yet fully understand them." He wanted to be respectful and kind, but he also wanted clarity. Over time, he began to observe the relationships more carefully. He saw how each woman had her own place in the community, her own responsibilities, and her own bond with him that was different from the others. He started to appreciate the complexity, though it was still overwhelming. Kaya remained by his side, patient and supportive. She explained that life in the community was built on balance, on understanding the needs of others, and on honoring family traditions. Ethan tried to embrace these lessons, participating in ceremonies, helping with daily tasks, and learning to listen more than he spoke. He noticed that the women were not in competition with each other. They were supportive, kind, and welcoming. This gave him comfort, though he still struggled to fully comprehend the depth of the tradition. Weeks turned into months, and Ethan gradually became more accustomed to the customs. He learned that what he had initially thought of as confusing or unfair was actually a reflection of a system built on respect, trust, and shared responsibility. He realized that his role was not to control or direct these relationships, but to honor and support them. He began to see the beauty in this way of life, appreciating the different qualities each woman brought to his life and the community. However, this adjustment was not easy. Ethan sometimes felt torn between his old understanding of marriage and the reality of his new life. He had moments of doubt and confusion, wondering if he would ever fully feel comfortable with the situation. He missed the simplicity of life back home, yet he also recognized that this challenge was teaching him patience, empathy, and humility. Each day brought new lessons, and he began to see that love could be broader and more nuanced than he had ever imagined. One day, during a community celebration, Ethan had a moment of clarity. Watching the interactions, the laughter, the shared work, and the bonds of support, he realized that love and respect were at the heart of everything. The connections he had formed were not about ownership or exclusivity. They were about understanding, caring, and contributing to the lives of others. He felt a shift in his perspective, a growing acceptance of the richness and complexity of the culture he had joined. Ethan also began to notice the women's kindness and generosity. Each of them treated him with warmth, patience, and respect. They shared their skills, their stories, and their lives with him. In return, he learned to be a better listener, a more understanding partner, and a more patient person. Slowly, his initial confusion and worry transformed into admiration and gratitude. He realized that he was not losing anything. Instead, he was gaining insight into a way of life that valued connection, community, and shared responsibility. Despite the progress he was making, there were still moments of tension. Ethan sometimes felt unsure how to respond to certain expectations or requests. He worried about making mistakes or offending someone unintentionally. Yet, he found that open communication, patience, and humility were the keys to navigating these challenges. He learned to ask questions respectfully, to observe carefully, and to follow Kaya's guidance. Over time, his confidence grew, and he began to feel more at home in the community. Ethan's journey in this period was a mixture of surprise, learning, and adaptation. He discovered that life in a new culture could challenge his assumptions, push him out of his comfort zone, and teach him valuable lessons about love, respect, and understanding. He realized that his initial expectations had been limited by his own experiences, and that embracing a broader perspective could bring growth and deeper connections. By the end of this part of the story, Ethan had begun to accept the reality that he was connected to more than one woman through the community's traditions. He was still learning, still adapting, but he was no longer fearful or resistant. Instead, he approached each day with curiosity, humility, and an open heart. He recognized that life was unfolding in ways he could not have predicted, and he chose to embrace it with respect and gratitude. Through this experience, Ethan learned that love is not always simple or predictable. Sometimes it comes in forms that challenge our understanding, push our boundaries, and teach us lessons we never expected. By listening, observing, and showing kindness, he discovered that even unexpected situations could bring meaning, growth, and happiness. He began to see the richness of the community, the strength of its traditions, and the depth of the bonds he had formed with Kaya and the others. In this chapter of his life, Ethan realized that being part of a community required more than love for one person. It required understanding, patience, respect, and a willingness to adapt. While he had started with the desire to be with one person he loved, he was learning that life's lessons could lead him to unexpected experiences and connections that could enrich his heart and soul. This period of adjustment, confusion, and learning became a turning point in his journey, preparing him for the challenges and discoveries that lay ahead. As time passed, Ethan began to settle into his life with Kaya and the other women he had come to know in the community. At first, he had approached the situation with cautious curiosity, trying to understand how the customs worked and how he should behave. But now, with months of experience behind him, he began to notice patterns and relationships that he hadn't fully grasped before. The realization hit him gradually, like sunlight breaking through clouds. He was married to 3 women, not just Kaya. The first time he truly understood the depth of this revelation was during a community gathering. Families had come together to celebrate a harvest festival, and everyone was engaged in singing, dancing, and sharing food. Ethan had always loved these celebrations, but that day, he began to see how the connections between people were structured. He noticed how the other 2 women interacted with him, not casually, but in a way that acknowledged their unique bond with him. There was respect in their eyes, warmth in their gestures, and an unspoken understanding that they were all part of his life in a meaningful way. At first, Ethan felt a surge of confusion. His mind went back to the life he had imagined before coming here, a simple marriage to one person, shared dreams and responsibilities, a life built together. He had wanted Kaya, and he still loved her deeply. But now he was faced with something completely unexpected. The idea of being connected to more than one woman was foreign to him, and his initial reaction was a mix of fear, disbelief, and even guilt. He worried that he had somehow failed or misunderstood the culture. Kaya noticed his unease and took his hand gently. "Ethan," she said softly, "you are not failing. You are learning. This is how our lives have always been, and now you are part of it. Each bond you have is unique, and it is possible to honor all of them. It does not take away from your love for me. It only expands your understanding." Her words were kind, but they did not magically erase his worries. Ethan nodded, appreciating her patience, yet inside, he was still processing the complexity of his situation. Over the following weeks, Ethan tried to observe and learn more carefully. He spent time with each woman individually, listening to their stories, helping them with daily tasks, and learning about their expectations. He realized that each woman had her own strengths, her own personality, and her own way of expressing love and care. One was practical and organized, always making sure that daily routines ran smoothly. Another was gentle and nurturing, offering comfort and wisdom in quiet moments. Kaya herself remained the heart of the family, connecting everyone with warmth and guidance. Even though he began to appreciate these differences, Ethan struggled internally. His upbringing had taught him that marriage was about exclusivity, about a partnership between 2 people. Now, he had to reconcile that belief with the reality he was living. There were moments when he felt overwhelmed, unsure how to balance his time, his attention, and his emotions. He worried about unintentionally hurting someone or failing to meet expectations. Every day required thought, care, and sensitivity. One evening, Ethan sought guidance from another elder, a man who had lived in the community for many years and had seen generations of families grow and thrive. They sat together outside, watching the sun set behind the hills. The elder spoke slowly, thoughtfully. "Ethan, love is not limited to what you have learned. It is not about possession or control. It is about understanding, patience, and respect. Each bond you have is a responsibility, yes, but also a gift. It teaches you empathy, humility, and the true meaning of connection." He began to understand that the situation was not about him being overwhelmed or losing control, but about embracing a new way of seeing relationships. The women were not rivals. They were partners in a shared life, each contributing in her own way. It was a network of love and support, a system built on trust and respect, rather than ownership or jealousy. Despite this growing understanding, the adjustment was not easy. Ethan sometimes caught himself slipping into old habits of thought, worrying about fairness, thinking in terms of exclusivity, or imagining conflicts that did not exist. He had to consciously remind himself that this culture operated differently, that the women he cared for were not in competition, and that each relationship had its own space. He learned to communicate openly, to ask questions, and to listen with patience. Slowly, he became more comfortable, more confident, and more respectful of the traditions he had once found confusing. The women themselves were patient with him. They sensed his confusion but also saw his sincerity. None of them demanded control or rivalry. Instead, they offered guidance, warmth, and support. They helped him learn how to divide his attention fairly, how to respect their needs, and how to participate fully in their shared life. Ethan found himself growing as a person, learning lessons he could never have imagined in his old life. He realized that this unexpected situation was teaching him humility, compassion, and the value of adaptability. One day, a small incident brought the reality of his situation into sharp focus. Ethan had promised to help one of the women with a community project, but Kaya needed him at the same time for an important family event. He felt torn, anxious about disappointing either of them and unsure how to handle the situation. Kaya noticed his tension and smiled gently. "Ethan, this is part of learning. You will make mistakes and that is okay. We understand your intentions. We only ask that you approach each situation with honesty and care." Her words calmed him, and he realized that the women were not expecting perfection, only sincerity. As he navigated these challenges, Ethan also began to see the positive side of the situation. Having multiple bonds allowed him to experience different perspectives, to understand the richness of human connection, and to appreciate the unique qualities of each woman. He learned patience, how to compromise, and how to balance his time and energy in a fair and thoughtful way. What had initially seemed overwhelming became an opportunity for growth, teaching him lessons about empathy, cooperation, and love that he could not have learned otherwise. Ethan's relationships with the women deepened over time. He celebrated small successes, like learning the correct way to participate in ceremonies, helping with household tasks, or simply sharing a quiet conversation that brightened someone's day. He discovered that his role was not to control or direct, but to support, to listen, and to participate fully. The more he embraced this mindset, the more harmonious his life became, and the stronger his connections grew. Yet, there were still moments of reflection and introspection. Ethan would sit quietly in the evenings, thinking about how much his life had changed in such a short time. He realized that he had come here seeking love and understanding, and instead, he had found a complex, beautiful system of relationships that challenged and enriched him in ways he could never have imagined. It was humbling, sometimes exhausting, but ultimately rewarding. Ethan also began to notice how the community viewed his situation. Neighbors and friends treated him with respect, acknowledging his connections with each woman as natural and honorable. There was no gossip, no judgment, only acceptance and understanding. This gave him a sense of security and belonging, reinforcing the idea that he was not alone in navigating these relationships. The women themselves exemplified harmony and patience, teaching him through example that respect and communication were more powerful than control or conflict. Through all of this, Kaya remained a central figure in his life. She guided him with wisdom, supported him with patience, and encouraged him to embrace the lessons of the community. He learned to trust her judgment, to seek her advice, and to appreciate her calm and steady presence. His love for her remained strong, but it was now complemented by a broader understanding of love itself, a love that could include others without diminishing his feelings for her. Ethan's journey in this period was marked by gradual revelation and personal growth. He had begun with confusion, fear, and surprise, but through patience, observation, and guidance, he was learning to navigate a complex web of relationships. Each day brought challenges, but also insights, opportunities for learning, and moments of genuine connection. He realized that life was teaching him to be flexible, compassionate, and open-minded, qualities that would serve him well for the rest of his life. By the end of this chapter, Ethan had fully recognized that he was married to 3 women. It was a reality that had initially shocked him, but now he approached it with respect and understanding. He understood that each bond was unique, Each relationship required care, and each connection was meaningful. He had learned that love was not limited by expectation, and that family and community could take forms that were unfamiliar but deeply enriching. Ethan's story in this part demonstrates the power of adaptation, humility, and cultural understanding. It shows how unexpected circumstances can challenge our assumptions and push us to grow. He discovered that true love is not just about desire or possession. It is about respect, patience, and the willingness to learn. By embracing this lesson, he became more compassionate, thoughtful, and connected to the people around him. Through these experiences, Ethan came to see that life often unfolds in ways we cannot predict. We may start with one expectation, but growth and understanding require openness to the lessons that come from unexpected situations. He realized that his initial desire for a single partner had expanded into a deeper understanding of relationships, community, and love itself. Though challenging, this revelation marked the beginning of a new chapter in his life, one filled with learning, growth, and the richness of human connection. As time moved forward, Ethan began to see his life in a new light. The initial shock of discovering that he was married to 3 women had slowly transformed into understanding, acceptance, and even appreciation. Each day brought him deeper lessons in patience, empathy, and the importance of community. What once felt overwhelming now revealed itself as a journey of growth, teaching him about love in ways he had never imagined. Life settled into a rhythm. Ethan divided his time thoughtfully, ensuring that he was present for each of the women. He helped with chores, attended community events, and shared quiet moments with each partner. Through this, he learned to value the small gestures. The way one woman would smile at him while preparing meals, the other would share advice quietly during a walk, and how Kaya remained the steady heart guiding everyone. He realized that love was not a competition or a measure of fairness, but a shared bond that could include multiple people if approached with respect and care. One morning, Ethan woke early and stepped outside to watch the sunrise. The quiet of the hills and the gentle colors of the sky reminded him of how far he had come. He thought back to his life before meeting Kaya, before stepping into the community, and before learning about traditions that had seemed so foreign at first. He remembered the confusion, the fear, and the doubts, and he smiled, realizing how much he had grown. Life had surprised him, challenged him, and ultimately changed him for the better. Ethan began to understand that his role in this unique family was not about control or authority, but about presence, understanding, and support. He noticed how each woman brought something valuable to their lives together: wisdom, strength, nurturing, and perspective. Rather than seeing the situation as complicated or unfair, he began to view it as a network of relationships that enriched his life, teaching him lessons about cooperation, compassion, and trust. The community also played an important role in this transformation. Neighbors and elders treated him with respect, understanding that he was learning and adapting. They offered guidance when he sought it and gentle correction when he made mistakes. Through their example, Ethan realized the importance of humility and openness in all relationships. He saw that acceptance from the community was not automatic. It was earned through respect, patience, and genuine care. As Ethan embraced his life, he noticed changes in himself. He became more patient and attentive, learning to observe before reacting. He developed a deeper sense of empathy, recognizing the needs, feelings, and desires of each partner. He learned to communicate clearly and listen deeply, understanding that love is not only about emotion, but also about responsibility and commitment. He began to appreciate that his initial expectations had been narrow, and that life often presents opportunities for learning in unexpected ways. One afternoon, while helping Kaya and one of the other women prepare for a festival, Ethan paused and reflected on his journey. He realized that he had grown not only as a husband but also as a person. He had learned to navigate complexity, honor traditions, and build meaningful connections beyond his own culture and experience. He understood that love could be expressed in many ways, and that the heart has the capacity to embrace more than one connection without diminishing the value of any individual. Ethan also spent quiet moments with each woman individually, deepening his relationships. With Kaya, he shared dreams and hopes for the future, discussing plans for their family and the community. With the second woman, he found comfort in shared routines and practical support, learning to appreciate her guidance and perspective. With the third, he discovered moments of laughter and warmth, enjoying her humor and unique insights. Each bond was different, yet equally important, teaching him balance, appreciation, and the meaning of shared life. Over time, Ethan began to feel a true sense of belonging. The community had become his home, and the women had become his family in a profound way. He recognized that his initial focus on one partner had been limited by his previous experience, and that embracing multiple connections could bring richness, joy, and growth to his life. The love he felt was no longer simple or singular. It was layered, deep, and expansive, reflecting the complexity and beauty of human relationships. Ethan also began to understand the power of respect in sustaining harmony. He saw that jealousy or conflict could be avoided when honesty, patience, and communication were prioritized. Each woman appreciated his sincerity, and he, in turn, respected their individuality, needs, and choices. Through this understanding, he realized that true love is not about possession or control. It is about connection, support, and mutual respect. One evening, as the three women and Ethan sat together after a long day, they reflected on their journey. There was laughter, gentle teasing, and shared stories. Ethan felt a deep sense of gratitude for each of them, for the lessons they had taught him, and for the bond they shared. He understood that life had unfolded in a way he could never have predicted, but that it had brought him closer to understanding the true meaning of love, family, and community. The seasons changed, and with them, life continued to grow richer. Ethan and the women faced challenges, of course, from everyday responsibilities to unexpected events in the community. Yet they faced these challenges together, drawing strength from their shared bond. Ethan realized that the support of multiple relationships, when nurtured with respect, could create resilience, joy, and fulfillment. He learned that life is not always simple, but it is full of opportunities to grow, love, and connect in meaningful ways. Through all of this, Ethan came to see that his journey had a deeper lesson. He had arrived seeking love for one person, expecting simplicity, and imagining a life limited to what he already knew. Instead, he had been given an opportunity to expand his understanding, to embrace multiple bonds, and to learn the value of patience, respect, and empathy. The initial surprise and confusion had transformed into a profound appreciation for life's complexity and beauty. Ethan also began to mentor others who were new to the community, sharing his experiences and insights. He spoke about the importance of respect, understanding, and learning from tradition. He encouraged visitors and new members to approach relationships with humility and an open heart, emphasizing that love is not just about desire. It is about care, patience, and responsibility. In doing so, he solidified his own understanding, realizing that teaching others also strengthened his own bonds and growth. As the story reached its conclusion, Ethan felt a deep sense of peace. He had embraced a life far different from the one he had imagined, but it was a life full of richness, learning, and connection. He had grown into a man who understood that love is expansive, that relationships require attention and respect, and that cultural understanding can transform challenges into profound opportunities. He no longer saw his situation as unusual or overwhelming. He saw it as a gift, a path to growth, and a chance to live a life full of meaningful connections. Ethan's journey teaches a timeless lesson. Life often unfolds in ways we do not expect. Our assumptions may be challenged, our expectations may be exceeded, and our understanding of love and connection may deepen. Through patience, respect, and openness, we can embrace these experiences, learning to navigate complexity with grace. What begins as confusion or surprise can transform into acceptance, growth, and fulfillment, revealing the beauty and richness of human connection. In the end, Ethan's story is not just about marriage or tradition. It is about transformation, understanding, and the ability to open one's heart to experiences beyond personal expectation. It is about learning that love can take many forms, that respect and patience are the foundations of harmony, and that true connection often requires stepping beyond our comfort zones. By embracing these lessons, Ethan found not only love but wisdom, belonging, and a deeper understanding of life itself. Through the bonds he shared with Kaya and the other women, Ethan discovered that relationships are about more than personal desire. They are about care, responsibility, and shared growth. He learned that family and community are intertwined, and that honoring tradition can lead to profound fulfillment. Though his journey had begun with the desire for one love, it ended with an appreciation for the many layers of connection that life offers. By fully accepting the complexities of his life, Ethan became a part of something larger than himself, a community built on respect, love, and mutual understanding. He realized that his journey was not just about learning to navigate multiple relationships, but about growing into a person capable of patience, empathy, and deeper understanding. His heart had expanded, his mind had opened, and his life had been forever enriched by the lessons he had learned. Ethan's story concludes on a note of harmony and reflection. He remains deeply connected to Kaya and the other women, each bond cherished for its uniqueness and value. The community continues to flourish around them, and Ethan walks forward with a sense of purpose, gratitude, and respect. What began as a desire for a single love became a journey of discovery, acceptance, and the profound joy of embracing life's unexpected gifts.